The Killing Joke is a terrible movie.
A disgrace to the name Joker.
I wish I could start in a more diplomatic way, but it's the only way I can describe it. This animated adaptation of Alan Moore and Brian Bolland's iconic story fails not only as an adaptation, but as a standalone movie. Now, if you like the movie, I do not wish to crap on your personal taste. I am glad you could enjoy it, and I'm not one of those people who treat their own opinions as facts. In this video, I wish to explain why I feel this movie is dreadful, and I will bring plenty of arguments to defend my stance. I hope that we can agree to disagree, and I hope that those who do agree with me will appreciate a video that analyzes the flaws we see in this movie. Number 1. The original story. It should be noted, in the name of fairness, that the original comic book is my favorite comic book of all time. Not only do I believe it to be almost flawless in its execution and endlessly fascinating in all its themes, but it has very personal significance to me. However, I do not want you to think I hated the animated movie just because it's not identical to the original. My issues go far deeper than that, and not doing justice to the source material is only one of these movie's many faults. Please be patient as I summarize the comic book's plot, for I think it's vital to go in depth about it. Also, warning, this video will contain spoilers for both the comic book and the movie. What is the comic book about? The Joker has once again escaped from Arkham Asylum, just as Batman had decided to have a talk with him to see whether there is any chance they can stop fighting before one of them kills the other. We learn that the Joker is planning something big, more terrible than anything he has ever done before. By shooting Barbara Gordon, making her paralyzed from the waist down, and by tormenting James Gordon all night in his infernal amusement park, Joker wants to prove that even someone as noble and good as Gordon can be broken. That we can all become insane as the Joker if we have a bad enough day. That's all that separates him from the rest of us, one bad day. The story also shows, through flashbacks, a possible origin of the Joker's madness, a tragic story of how he lost his wife, was pressured into committing a crime, and fell into the vat of acid that turned him into our favorite villain. All this in the same day. The story, however, heavily hints at the possibility that it's all false. The Joker claims that he remembers it differently every day. The point of the story is not giving the Joker a clear past. The story serves as a means to make a point about chance, free will, and the fragility of the self, while also comparing Batman and Joker as characters. Why is it that people react differently to terrible traumas? Why has Joker become evil chaos while Batman has chosen to pursue order and good? Can we choose whether we become good or evil? Are both choices insane in an insane world? Can we choose to change? Can Batman and Joker stop fighting? Can anyone really be pushed to the point of insanity? Is the world really as random and cruel as the Joker describes it? All these questions linger in the air as the confrontation between Batman and Joker takes place. Joker's plan does not work as he fails to break Gordon's spirit, and Batman arrives to fight his arch-nemesis. For a tragic moment, we think it will end there, and Batman will not manage to talk to the Joker as he wanted to at the beginning of the story. However, Batman, being the hero we all love, finds the strength to not give in to his anger and asks Joker to try and change. Maybe he, Batman, can help him. Maybe they are alike, and Batman can show the Joker how to choose a different path. For a moment, the Joker honestly considers this possibility, but in the end he says no, it's too late, far too late. The story ends with a wonderful joke about two men who try to escape a lunatic asylum, a wonderful metaphor of the relationship between the two characters. In the end, they laugh together at the joke, in one of the most brilliant, ambiguous endings ever written. Is Batman laughing because he has snapped and lost his mind? Maybe just for a moment, maybe for good? Does he strangle the Joker, or is he just leaning on him? Are they merely enjoying the one moment when they had stopped to be enemies, even if just for a few seconds? Does Batman just take the Joker back to Arkham? Are they both just insane, just like the two men from the joke? Two sides of the different coin, reacting insanely to the absurdity of the world? We do not know, and that is why it works so beautifully. The story was not meant to be canon at the time, and it still feels, at least to me, like a dream, or a possible ending to their eternal fight. This is The Killing Joke. I hope I managed to explain how great it is, and why its themes resonate with me and so many others. Number 2. The story of the movie. Okay, here we go. The movie's first act is a completely new subplot written specifically for this adaptation by Brian Azzarello. Now, I admit this was a little puzzling and that a part of me thought, this isn't how The Killing Joke opens in the comic. However, I kept an open mind and patiently watched the story unfold. I understand that The Killing Joke is a relatively short story, and while I would have had no problem with a short movie or some minor padding to the original plot, I appreciated how tricky it is to adapt a story and was open to them adding some new elements to it. A narration by Barbara Gordon started by saying something along the lines of, "I bet this isn't how you expected the story to open." It is a clever line, very meta. It told me that the writer knew he was surprising us, and it made me hopeful. I also had no issue with the idea that Barbara was being given more space. Barbara Gordon is my favorite female character from the DC comics, and I rather liked the idea of giving her more weight in the story. As much as I love the comic, in it she's pretty much just a victim, though I think she is dignified. This was criticized by some, and I'll get to that later on. Anyway, I was okay with the idea of giving Barbara some space as Batgirl, so that all audiences, including those not familiar with the comics, could be devastated when she was shot by the Joker. However, the first act quickly reared its ugly head and showed itself for what it was, a badly written, morbid mess that added nothing to Barbara as a character and only took away from the overall story. In this prologue, that takes a third of the movie, we see Barbara and Batman having a relationship. Barbara, voiced by the ever-talented Tara Strong, finds this relationship troublesome. She is tired of Batman always calling the shots and not giving her any credit when they're on patrol, and she does not know how to make the love relationship work. Now, I am not really a fan of the idea of Batman and Barbara being a couple, personally. For one thing, I think they have little chemistry as lovers, and she works much better as Dick Grayson's love interest. Furthermore, Batman dating Batgirl feels to me like a college professor dating a student. Yeah, she's of legal age and all, but it's still sleazy. I think Barbara works much better as a friend and possibly like a sister figure to the Bat family. However, maybe an idea I find questionable can be saved by a good execution. It happens all the time. The real issue here is that the execution is almost worse than the premise. Here are a few things I thought were awful regarding the execution of this prologue. Barbara is portrayed as a weak character, a woman who does what she does not because she believes it's the right thing to do or because she enjoys doing it, but to prove herself. And not to herself, but to Batman, a character who even claims at one point to like it when guys control her in a relationship. Something so out of character for a strong female character as Barbara that my head started aching. And even disregarding loyalty to the character, does this Barbara sound like a compelling, strong female lead to you?
He's always been controlling. Usually I'm okay with it.
But there's no sex.
God, no.
And you're into him because...
Because of the yoga. I like the yoga.
So find another class.
There is no other class, Reese. This is it. And I'm good.
He won't say it, but I'm the best damn student he ever had. So if he's gonna start making decisions based on emotions, of which he has zero, then I think we've got a problem.
Batman is so controlling, so apparently unreasonable, and so excessively stern that he just ends up being a douche. Now, I know what they were going for. Batman cannot express his feelings in the right way, and, by trying to protect the people he loves, he ends up making them bitter and driving them away. It has been done before, and it's fine, in theory. It is so poorly executed here, however, that Batman is way too over the top. he does not even attempt to explain to Barbara why he's asking her to stay behind, or to show any degree of respect or consideration to her. This is actually a problem I have with most of Brian Azzarello's work when he writes pre-existing characters. He takes one quality they have and pushes it to the limit, ruining the balance of the character. Just like Rorschach in the Watchmen prequel, whom Azzarello had reference his mother all the time and called women whores every 2 pages.
Hold on, we're not done. No, wait!
Barbara shares her feelings with a co-worker in a manner that's more akin to a sitcom than a Batman story. What's the kicker though? Her co-worker is a gay stereotype. A skinny guy with skinny jeans, blonde straight hair, effeminate mannerisms, an effeminate voice, and whose only personality trait is being gay and talking about big men and sex. I find the inclusion and characterization of this character truly despicable. It is especially insulting in the adaptation of an Alan Moore story, the most liberal person on the face of the planet.
And they say the gay scene is complicated. What?
A new villain is included. Yes, there is another villain in The Killing Joke. The idea itself is, I think, awful. But what really makes it hopeless is the fact that this villain is insufferable and as dull and as generic as a villain can get, with a sprinkle of sexual deviancy which I guess should be considered psychological development. This villain is called Paris, France. No, seriously.
Paris, France.
Paris fucking France. He's a sociopath and a narcissist, and all he wants is to take over his uncle's criminal empire and steal a whole lot of stuff. He's also sexually attracted to Batgirl. This leads to wonderful scenes like him gassing Batgirl to make her unconscious, which has several repulsive implications, and paying a busty hooker to wear her mask as he has a way with her. We do not see the sex, but the events are clearly implied. Did anyone really like these additions? Why would they add all this? Now, I know what was the general idea, showing that Barbara could end up having an arch-nemesis that is a dangerous sociopath, just like Batman has the Joker. He wants to protect her from that fate. Problem is that this villain is not interesting, period, and he's definitely not as interesting as the motherfucking Joker. Also, the sexual overtones are just boring, not to mention sick. A villain whose objective is to rape the hero is not especially interesting, and definitely not as interesting as a villain who wants to morally corrupt the hero. Bottom line, Paris, France is a boring villain and a pain in the ass, and I doubt whether he'll ever be used again in a Batman story, if not for mockery.
Smells like cherries, huh? You've got maybe 10 seconds to bedtime, baby. Can't end the night without a kiss.
The dialogues in the first act are awful. Azzarello also managed to ruin some dialogues from the original story, but in this prologue we see all his flaws as a writer. He tends to write everything in this noir style that seems inspired by Frank Miller and Sin City, or anyway, a tone that's on the same page. Problem is that Gotham City is not Sin City, and Azzarello does not write compelling people. His tone not only clashes with Alan Moore's tone, making the movie uneven, but leads to some cringe-worthy lines, like Paris, France, joking that Barbara must be on her period when she beats him up. Now, that's funny, isn't it? No? Well, at least it makes the villain look scary and cool, right? No, it doesn't.
But I try to be what you want.
You're not listening to me, Debbie. You're so damn clingy. I feel trapped like I can't move. I need space. Hey!
There. face.
Batgirl and Batman have sex. This is really just an extension of the flaws I mentioned before with their relationship. However, I will address fan service and needless sexual imagery later, because they are topics that need their own space to be addressed properly. Here, I'll just say that the scene is as stupid and cliched as you can imagine. Batman and Batgirl argue, fight a little, fall on the ground, stare each other in the eye, and start having sex. Riveting. Who the fuck cares? What actually pisses me off about the sex, besides the fan service, is the aftermath. The sex, along with an instance where she snapped and beat up Paris, France, is what makes Batgirl quit. It ruins her relationship with Batman. They stop talking to each other and she just gives up the mantle. This is how we're supposed to be more sympathetic towards Barbara and how we are supposed to see her as a stronger, more developed character? All this prologue achieves is to make her weaker and to make Batman a douchebag. What a load and what a waste of our time.
So, you and Yoga Guy?
Yeah, a few nights ago.
Girl, you've been holding out. How was it? Not so good.
No, it was fantastic. Like fireworks.
Yeah?
Except he's been avoiding me. At least I think he is. We haven't talked.
I've been to that dance.
Maybe it was too soon, even after all this time.
Talk to him, Babs. Some guys need a period of adjustment. They get nervous about commitment. He's only human, right?
After this prologue, which takes half an hour, the story seems to be loyal to the original graphic novel. Superficially. Batman goes to the asylum under the rain to speak with the Joker, and the actual plot people paid for finally kicks in. However, it is not really as loyal as people say, and it does no justice to the original and its subtlety. Some have argued that without the prologue, the movie would be fine. I strongly disagree. This adaptation cheapens everything great about the original, and in many ways. I'll explain why in the next part of the review, when we'll compare and contrast the comic book with the movie. Continued in part 2.